All right, my friends, today is June the 17th. It is Monday, a few hours into the New York session. Let's do the market outlook and plans for the week ahead. So before I get into the outlook, a little bit of an announcement slash shill. I'm back to working on the introduction to trading guide that I started several months ago. I had to take some time off from this just because I got a little bit too busy. Didn't have really the time to dedicate towards this, but I'm back to working on it again. It's going to be essentially a free guide that covers all the pillars of understanding that I think you need to have in order to have a chance at being a trader. Paragon members are going to get early access to this along the development, and then everybody will get it, in the public version eventually. I'm not sure exactly what kind of censoring will take place for the public. So everybody in the Paragon group will get the full uncensored version. I'll probably have a public version that will have most everything, but some other really good stuff will maybe be hidden. So I don't know exactly how this is going to be structured, but I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm back to working on this again. So it will come out in the not so distant future, maybe a month or two from now if I had to guess. My original goal was when I hit 50,000 followers on Twitter that I would release this, but I might end up releasing it before just because it's the type of guy I am, I guess. So anyways, let's go ahead and get into the outlook. So as far as the macro outlook on Bitcoin goes, no dramatic changes, right? We're just rehashing what we've already been talking about for several months now. It feels like it's been an eternity. It's been like, 3.5 months in this range. So first and foremost, we'll always make the point that we're in an uptrend, right? Very solid uptrend that we've been in for, 16, 17 months now, ever since March. So, 3.5 months roughly, been sideways building out value between 70 and 60K. I don't see any dramatic changes coming anytime soon. Still leaning into the summertime chop thesis. That's been my plan for several months now, and there's no reason to change that. So I think that we're going to continue to chop people up. Sentiment in this range has been incredible to watch. I know you guys can relate to that. It's just watching people just completely fall apart while we go sideways. Alts are getting obliterated in this range, and it's just definitely been an interesting to watch everybody just completely falling apart. But as far as the thesis goes, no changes, right? We expect more chop throughout the summertime. We're approaching quarter three here rapidly. So my plan was, as we got into Q3, that's when the range break would start to set up. My plan is that in, the second half of Q3, I think is where volatility will start to pick up and we'll start to break from this range. If you're interested in gaining access to the spaghetti template and learning how to properly utilize it, you should consider joining the Paragon group. My core plan is and always has been that we would break up from this range. So chop people up for several months, anywhere from 3 to 6 months, which is playing out perfectly, and then break upwards. My main thesis is and always has been that we will break upwards. However, I do want to be prepared for the scenario where I'm wrong and we break downwards. The stars are kind of aligning for things to end up bearishly. No, I don't think that that's what's going to happen, but I do think it makes sense to have that in the back of your mind always and have some sort of plans for if things do break down and we end up rather bearishly. Sentiment is supportive of us going upwards. However, just the insane abundance of scams, rugs and celebrity bullshit that you guys are seeing, right? It doesn't bode well for us. So I think the most bullish scenario is us continuing to chop sideways. But to be clear, I'm not flipping bearish by any means. I've been in a risk adverse mindset ever since we got into March. So that's pretty much it as far as I'm concerned for Bitcoin, right? I still think that we keep chopping people up for the next month or two minimum. As we start to get into late Q3 and early Q4, that's when things are going to start to really heat up for us. As far as headwinds go, right, the main thing that's preventing us from trading upwards is the seasonality aspect that's compounded by all the scams that we're seeing. I think as far as tailwinds go, though we have quite a lot of us, seasonality is going to be supportive for going up here pretty shortly. And then we're also going to have the added confluence with the political cycle, the elections popping up. and the Ethereum ETF. So I really do still have that high conviction that we're going to break upwards. It's just going to keep crushing people's spirits and leading people towards capitulation before that occurs. Let's get into the medium time frame. So right now where we're at basically is we're trading around mid-range. I still think that we're going to continue to chop people up, but I think that betting on a long here soon makes a lot of sense from a lower or medium time frame standpoint. So the main things that I'm looking at is either to see us trade a little bit lower to get better risk definition, or to see a reclaim, right? So we're messing around with this mid-range point, putting on a little intraday bounce right now. I think that if it trades lower into the 64s or 63s, the risk definition is just too good. The overlaps between the macro range low overlapping with demand, overlapping with this important anchored VWAP, and composite structuring has a lot of overlaps, also has the confluence of the quarterly VWAP as well. So this is a very key area to expect support to take place, right? So I think that if I get this opportunity to buy down here, I'm going to send this. Otherwise, I might be looking for the reclaim play. If I don't see either of these take shape, I'm probably just not going to take any intraday trades at all this week if these don't set up for me. So that's pretty much it, right? Medium time frame, still building out this range. The more precise range that we're looking at is value has shifted up, which has been pretty interesting to observe. So 63.2 for the range low and 71.1 for the range high. Value has shifted up as we've been building this composite structuring within the larger comp. So interesting to observe that. I mean, sentiment has been one of the biggest things for me too, right? So the argument for getting long is definitely valid from a technical standpoint. And sentiment is just so bad, right? So one more tiny leg down would just absolutely annihilate everybody's mental health. You guys are seeing this, right? The bickering on the timeline and stuff, it's terrible, right? So I think we're getting really close to that point where we're going to start to set up a big bounce to kind of squeeze out all the overconfident bears and to give bulls a kind of hope that they can cling to, which will ultimately amount to nothing, right? Because it's probably just going to be another dead cat kind of bounce. The kind of counter argument to that more bearish, more conservative approach is that medium time frame structure is bullish right now. We've talked about this several times, right? So if we're going to set up another higher low right now, medium time frame structure is pretty bullish at that point. And then, I'm going to most likely be playing this conservative, expecting supply at one of these two areas to hold us back. But the bullish structure is there for us to trade up higher. So I think taking this kind of long setup is really win-win, because either it leads you to a dead cat bounce, which is a good trade, or it leads you to new highs, which is also going to be a good trade. So it really seems win-win, and the risk to reward is definitely there. So that's pretty much it for medium time frame. So as far as altcoins go, it's rough out there right now. Altcoins are getting absolutely slaughtered. I do think that we're getting to that point where if sentiment is so bad, I really do think that we're getting to that point where the big bounce is upon us here very soon, in my opinion. So let's run through some alts. First, to pay attention to is going to be ETH. ETH's getting slaughtered today. But ultimately, ETH structuring doesn't look too terrible. So something I'm going to be looking for on ETH is a scenario where, kind of the dip is done. If I think that, if I get that confluence where I think Bitcoin is done trading down, well, ETH would be a pretty decent bet as well for the long. So it would be, for my safe play, it would be either between Solana or ETH. I might even split the difference between the two. So I think the ETH structuring looks okay. I would have loved to see ETH BTC holding up during this more, but it's, wishful thinking at this point. Similar kind of argument with Solana, right? I think, ETH and Sol are basically in the same boat right now, where their bears are definitely in control on medium time frame across the board, but structure on Solana looks okay. I'm kind of torn with how I'm viewing Solana on the macro. So you guys know I've been a big Solana bull for ages now, and that worked out pretty well for me this cycle. Very, very fortunate. I'm kind of torn though, where when I'm trying to be smart and game out how Solana plays out. My original thesis with Solana was all about the fundamental angle, right? It has all these users, it has all, all the sticky volume, all this, kind of stupid arguments that you've heard me make before. With what's been happening with Solana recently, I'm trying to game out whether it's bullish or bearish, right? If Solana is just going to be the grifter chain, I don't know if that's necessarily, part of me wants to say that's bearish, but that's probably the stupid idealist part of my brain that's saying that maybe that's actually bullish. So over the next couple weeks, I think I'll work out a better plan or a better thesis on how to view Solana. But for the time being, I'm kind of torn. I haven't changed any of my beliefs. I still think Solana is a great network and it's going to continue to accrue value. But it's been interesting to watch what's been happening with it recently. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. So good luck out there this week, and I'll see you guys soon. Cheers.